Renewed Boko Haram hostilities. Presidency directs immediate relocation of service chief to Maiduguri.
We agreed that they should move back to the command center again and stay and see what are the things happening there.
House of Representatives concludes review of 1999 Constitution.
Ayes have 281. One member abstain. The nays have 12. So the ayes haven't garnered more than 240. The ayes have it.
Acting President at LMF Fertilizer Plants restates government's commitment to support private sector.
Today on Good Morning Nigeria, we'll focus on erosion control.
Over the years, ecological problems have been creating sleepless nights to people in various communities and villages in the different states of the Federation.
And Nigeria's ecological problems are said to be unique, as different geopolitical zones are faced with specific environmental challenges.
Now, for instance, southeast Nigeria is battling with erosion with over 2,500 gully sites alone.
And yes, a blessing from Anambra to Abia, Cross River to Ebonyi, Edo, Imo, Enugu, Delta, Kogi, Gombe, Nasarawa, and a host of other states. The story is the same, as all of them are battling with one ecological problem or the other.
Now, Karen, let's take a look at what the World Bank survey recently done reveals that erosion is one of the three main environmental problems bedeviling Nigeria. That's what it says.
And of course, the National Council on Environment report indicates that over 10% of land area of Nigeria is under severe erosion problems, classified as sheet-reel gully erosion.
Well, those are some of the ones that we know. Some other communities are even suffering much more. Even oceanic ones are available. Well, available statistics also show that Nigerians lose about 1 trillion naira annually to erosion-related crisis. Hence, erosion is considered as one silent killer again, especially in the southeastern part of the country.
Of course, yes, in the southeast is really ravaging the area. Now, this worrisome situation perhaps prompted the National Assembly to kickstart the process of legislation to establish Erosion Control and Prevention Commission with a view to reversing the colossal damages caused by erosion-related challenges yearly.
So questions to ask would be, why is it difficult to tackle the erosion menace, and how will this bill that you have just talked about, help to address ecological challenges in the country? What role should subnational governments play in tackling these challenges, especially when some of this erosion affecting local government states as well as some other communities around? So it shouldn't just be a question of federal government intervening, really. Well, those are some of the questions as well as some of those ones that will be on your mind in the course of our discussion this morning. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. My name is Blessing Abu, saying thank you for joining us for this one for the week. This is the last one for the working week.
Exactly. And I am Kirian Umar, also joining Blessing to welcome you to today's edition of the program on Africa's largest television network, the NTA. We'll also have the usual segments: newspaper review, business, sports, as well as arts and entertainment, in addition to foreign news. And on our morning news today is Lydia Bassi. Lydia, you're welcome.
Good morning. Welcome to the news. The presidency has directed the immediate relocation of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, and his Air Force counterpart, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, to Maiduguri, towards putting an end to the renewed hostilities by Boko Haram insurgents in the area. Minister of Defense Mansour Dan Ali announced this after an emergency security meeting convened by Acting President Yemi Osinbajo and the service chiefs.
We agreed that they should move back to the command center again and stay and see what are the things happening there toward regaining back our areas and we ensure that all these ambushes that are happening regularly will be stopped henceforth.
State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that Boko Haram recently carried several attacks on both the military and the civil populace in Borno State, with a number of casualties recorded. The House of Representatives has concluded voting on all bills seeking to amend the 1999 Constitution. The bills seeking to provide for local government autonomy, independent candidacy, immunity for the members of the legislature, and reduction in the age qualification for political office in Nigeria were among the bills passed.
Did in the other house, but at least it's good for Nigerians, since this is a long, drawn-out process. It's good for our citizens to know the stand of the House on each of those issues. So we'll vote on everything.
The other one is the bill on political parties and electoral matter. This is an important, very important step in our democratic experience, trying to entrench in the Constitution the issue of independent candidacy.
The ayes have 281, one member abstain. The nays have 12. So the ayes haven't garnered more than 240. The ayes have it.
The move by the Independent National Electoral Commission to integrate Nigerians in the diaspora in the nation's electoral process would only be possible when the relevant laws in the Electoral Act and Constitution are amended. Acting Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Adedeji Shoebi, stated this in Abuja when he received a delegation of Nigerians living in the diaspora.
This will assure you that the Commission is not resting on our laurels in ensuring that we have this achieved.
The federal government has restated its commitment to supporting development efforts that will translate into better and quality life for the people, irrespective of party affiliation. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo said this at the inauguration of the Chokochoko Igbo Rumukurushi Road and Chokochoko Ozuzu Road projects at Chokochoko Eche in Rivers State.
The federal government wants to support every effort that makes the life of people easier and that benefits the people. And I want to say that this effort is one of those that makes life easier for people, especially the people of Eche.
Towards the realization of the Buhari administration program of job creation, Acting President Yemi Osinbajo says government will remain committed to supporting the private sector to maximize the potential of their assets. He stated this while presenting a discharge certificate to the management of the Indorama LMA fertilizer and chemical plant in Port Harcourt.
The kind of economic growth and prosperity that we're aiming for cannot happen without private capital. And that private capital cannot be unlocked without reforming the business environment by removing obstacles and roadblocks to investment and to business operations.
Away from Port Harcourt, the Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Ibe Kachiku, has condemned the terror attack on oil exploration workers and security operatives between Magumeri and Gubio local government areas of Borno State, where lives were lost. The minister said it is unfortunate that the attack occurred when the team concluded mapping and geological surveying of the Nigeria side of the Lake Chad Basin and was returning to Maiduguri, the Borno State capital.
I'm sure that in the next couple of days, the military authorities will give us a lot more specifics in terms of the number of casualties, and we'll begin to make contacts with their respective families to support them in these very difficult times.
A bill for an act to provide for framework relating to petroleum-producing host community participation and other related matters has passed second reading at the Senate. The bill seeks to curb the restiveness in the Niger Delta region by assuaging fears of the petroleum host communities.
This bill, when enacted into law, will create the much desired harmony and partnership among the various stakeholders in the petroleum operations process.
Over the years, government has attempted to address the issue by providing various forms of palliatives to the host communities, but this has always fallen short of the expectations of the people.
When we passed the PIG governance bill, we made a commitment here that the host community bill will follow very quickly behind you. We're already behind in time, and I think it's in the spirit of that we've brought this here today.
The International Press Institute Nigeria has taken steps to host its World Congress in Abuja next year. A secretariat has been set up and a steering committee inaugurated to be headed by the president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, Nduka Obiagbena, who will be assisted by two deputies, Kabiru Yusuf, chairman, Daily Trust, and Garba Shehu, senior special assistant to the president. And that's the news. Good Morning Nigeria will continue with Blessing and Kirian after the break. Good morning.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Many Nigerian children cannot afford to go to school because they live in poverty. Instead of enjoying education and its benefits, they get involved in street trading to help themselves and their families survive. The Rogers Foundation is a humanitarian organization which currently caters for over 15,000 less privileged children in various schools all over Nigeria. The foundation has a goal to take thousands of less privileged children off the streets and provide them with free quality education from secondary school to the university as part of her Vision 2030. Admission forms are free and available online and at all Rogers Foundation colleges at Owerri, Jos, Ibadan, Kano, Enugu, Sokoto, Yola, Bauchi, Zaria, and Oboko. For further details, visit www.rochersfoundation.org. Rogers Foundation, we educate to empower.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. At the time now for the business report. The National Directorate of Employment says it is being repositioned to create jobs for Nigerians within and outside the country. Let's find out more details about this, as well as other stories with Kulu Mohammed.
Hello and many thanks for joining me on Business News. Nigeria and the United Nations signs a 5-year sustainable framework. The Sustainable Framework is a successor program to the current United Nations Development Assistance Framework 3. And the United Nations over the past years in formulating the program tagged the United Nations Sustainable Development Partnership Framework, UNSDPF 2018 to 2022. The Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Udoma Odo Udoma, signed on behalf of the Nigerian government, while the UN Resident Humanitarian Coordinator in Nigeria, Mr. Edward Callan, signed alongside other UN systems directors in Nigeria for the United Nations. The National Directorate of Employment says it is repositioning to create jobs for Nigerians within and outside the country. The Director General, National Directorate of Employment, Dr. Nasir Ladan Mohammed, stated this in an exclusive interview with NTA Business News.
We're trying to create an avenue through our website whereby all unemployed youth will have themselves registered, and this will open to the whole world. We're trying to borrow from what is happening in Bangladesh and Pakistan and Philippines. You know, over 80% of foreign exchange earning from Philippines is coming from their labor export. So honestly, my vision is looking not just providing employment within. I'm even thinking of labor export, which will definitely help us to reduce the magnitude of employment. And we tend to gain in this aspect in two ways. Number one, the needed foreign exchange will be coming to us if these young men can be engaged in various countries where they are going to work. And at the same time, by the time they are coming back home, they will come with a lot of experience which you can tap from them.
The equities market closed on a bullish note. Let's now see a quick graphic representation of the latest closing figures from Thursday's trading. That's business news. Good Morning Nigeria continues right after now. See you again. Bye for now.
Thank you very much, Kolo Mohammed. Now let's have you join us as we take a look at some of the headlines, the front pages of the newspapers we have here in the house.
And our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Toyebi, is here in good time to be part of Good Morning Nigeria. Bayo, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Kiriam. Good morning, Blessed.
Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, let's start with Blueprint. Below the name tag of Blueprint, we have actually the major headline: Senate betrayed Nigerians on power devolution, says Atiku. I hope he's talking. He's the former vice president of this country, and with riders, NAS lacks power to amend constitution. Ahamba and other senior advocates of Nigeria, and then northern governors meet monarchs over restructuring. Details of all that can be gotten in page 6 of Blueprint. And just besides that, we have reps in rally session over citizenship and FCT bills on page 9 of Blueprint. And Bauchi enacts compulsory HIV genotype tests on page 9. Then Amnesty for looters will encourage looting in the country, says Balarabe Musa. That story is on page 6 of Blueprint. And the photograph there shows Katsina State Governor Aminu Bello Masari exchanging documents with his Niger Republic counterpart, Malam Zakari. That's the photograph there. But below that, we have Brunei oil exploration. Slain consultant buried. Fresh 4 killed in bomb attacks on page 14. And then 262 more Nigerians return from Libya. Details on page 17. Why I want to be president, says Lamido, on page 31. And at the bottom of the front page of a Blueprint, review revenue allocation formula. Senate orders RMAFC. Maybe Bayo will tell us, give us more details on this. The story is on page 14 of Blueprint.
Okay, I could start off with a New Telegraph. Just above the nameplates for the New Telegraph, you have the story. Federal government proposes 7.9 trillion naira for 2018 budget. With a rider, lawmakers approve $2.55 billion foreign loan. That story is starting there, but continues on page 5. Just below the nameplates, there's other stories. Northern governors, monarchs decide on restructuring today. The story is trending on page 35. And to page 3, you find the stories. NNPC suspends all exploration in Lake Chad Basin. Well, we'll find out more details why that is so on page 3. Fire shared as Ekiti governor, saying how Obasanjo used me against Atiku, Kalu, and McCarthy. The story 2 is trending on page 3. Oyegu is the APC Chair Buhari still in London to regain energy. That story you find on page 7. Leading for the New Telegraph is a story on the Constitution, as taken by Kieran earlier. Constitution amendment splits senators and reps. With riders, House retain State Independent Electoral Commission, endorses affirmative action, but rejects FCT ministerial slots, approves immunity for lawmakers. Atiku Ohaneze berates National Assembly for rejecting devolution of powers. The photograph you have there is that of the acting presidents, but joined by the River State Governor Nyesom Wike, as they commissioned during the inauguration of the Chokocho Umwepe Ozuzu Road and Chokocho Iboeche Rumokuroshi at River State yesterday. Boko Haram kills 5 varsity staff, 4 lecturers missing. With the rider Osubajo to service chiefs return to Maiduguri. That's what you find on page 8. Okay, Bayo.
Indeed, the acting president has given instructions to the service chief to return to theater of war in Maiduguri. The Minister of Defense, Mansour Dan Ali, was the one who briefed a State House correspondent yesterday, and he also added that surveillance equipment to aid their challenges in the Northeast will be provided for them. Meanwhile, more fatalities have been reported in the oil exploration in the Lake Chad Basin that was met with the adoption of Boko Haram insurgents. 18 soldiers, 15 civilian JTF, 5 University of Maiduguri staff, and 4 NNPC drivers were lost. Our hearts must go out to the families of these persons who died in the service of our nation. Some of the University of Maiduguri staff that died, 5 of them were buried yesterday. 4 of them are still missing, and there's no information about that. But Minister of State for Petroleum, Ibeka Chukwuha, says the ministry has commiserated with the families of the victims and has expressed regret that the team was ambushed, and indicated that before the team went into the area, they had every clearance from the military and they were accompanied by the soldiers before they went there. He announced an immediate and indefinite suspension of the oil exploration in the area. The other stories that have dominated the papers are the issues of the constitutional amendment. The House of Representatives, in its bid for the 4th amendment of the 1999 Constitution, yesterday approved and concurred with the independent candidacy and also lowering the age to contest for the highest office to 35 years, and also the abolition of joint account by the state and local government. However, they disagreed with the proposed amendment for devolution of powers, separation of the Attorney General of the Federation Office from that of Minister of Justice, Land Use Act, and State Creation. Of all the 360 members of the House of Rep, 289 were in attendance, 210 were the ones that voted. Actually, 240 were required to have had that pass. The other stories that the papers are happening on is the meeting of the northern governors as well as the northern traditional rulers. Chairman Northern Governors Forum, Governor Kashim Shettima of Borno, says the North is not opposed to restructuring, as many people have been led to believe. He said, however, such should be within the acceptable criteria, and it must be fair to all components and parts of the country. Governor Shettima said that to do this, we need to have statesmen chaperone the art of governance, not politicians. He said we need to look at coming generations, not coming elections. We need also to watch our words and not to play to the gallery. And most importantly, we need to look far in the future with the utmost sense of responsibility. And he said the governors with their royal fathers will, at the end of their meeting today, come with a position. And he says the consensus position will be reflective of the interests of our people, and that will also attract popular acceptance across the nation.
Now, Bayo, taking you back to the story of the 45 killed in Maiduguri, many Nigerians are worried, that after the technical defeat of Boko Haram, this group can still muster some courage and determination to really lay ambush after clearance, for the team by the military, and also accompanied the team. What may have happened, the Nigerians may ask?
Well, there are several interpretations, but then it is a mishap that it is very regrettable. But indications are that when you give an ultimatum that a leader of an insurgent group must be captured. Some security experts is that you get them to be very desperate and they will take desperate actions. These were gentlemen who since November 2016 have been involved in oil exploration in various places, locations. In fact, there are about 7 locations in the Lake Chad Basin. But this last trip they set about on Tuesday met this sudden ambush. So it was not in Maiduguri, it was in far away in the local government area along the fringe of Lake Chad where they were doing oil exploration.
Right,
but the fact still remains that the dying insurgency is trying to create an impression that it's still available, and that is why you are having these attacks as soft targets.
And they must have some intelligence network themselves, you know, by being able to, you know, do the lady ambush, and they executed, their plans successfully.
Just so sorry, Kieran. Well, that's a story leading for this day newspaper. 48 bodies of Chad Basin oil explorers recovered after Boko Haram ambush. Riders, of course, we took on that already. Australia made security chiefs. Shetima condemns attack. Northern leaders express worries over insecurity. And military blame weather for resurgence of terrorism. And to other stories on the front page of this day, we have just above the nameplate the story about the 2018 budget. Federal government targets 7.9 trillion naira 2018 budget as Senate approves $1.8 billion external borrowing. 2 riders to that. Proposes $45 per barrel and 2.3 a barrel in MTF. With another rider, 6 states get nod for $750 billion foreign loans. Still on the front page, we have the photograph of the Senate President, Bukola Saraki. Compassion for Boko Haram victim. There's a child there who is needing assistance to undergo a spinal cord surgery in the United Arab Emirates, in Abuja. Buhari ready to resume work, says Oyegun. That story is trending on page 12. And that's other stories. House rejects separation of AGF from Minister of Justice. A story you find on page 52. Kieran?
All right, let's go to the Punch newspapers, and I hope we'll see that very well on the screen. The Punch newspaper, and see what is on the headlines for today. Above the nameplate, to have Obasanjo aware of Yar'Adua's ill health before 2007 election, says Fayeshe. That's on page 7 of Punch newspaper. The Boko Haram attack. Well, NNPC suspends oil search in Chad Basin. We've told you about that from other newspapers. That's on page 23. And then the federal government plans a 7.9 trillion naira budget for 2018. Details on page 23 as well. And then the main headline for the Punch newspaper is that how federal government and governors shield indicted judges from sanctions and prosecution. And then with the writer here, Buhari, Yari, Ganduje, others fail to punish judges, says NJC. And there are other headlines there. We also have the picture of a Senate president with the child needing help. Forbes billionaires list. Dangote, Adenoga again as Bezos overtakes Bill Gates. Interesting. 23. It's on page 23 of the Punch newspapers. Boko Haram back in Sambisa, bombed 108 times, Air Force says. And that story is on page 9 of the Punch newspapers. Now, reps support Senate, reject devolution of power. Okay, local government autonomy. Maybe Bayo will have to come in here.
Yes, okay. Well, that's what we discussed earlier on, that what transpired on the floor of the House of Representatives. It was a rowdy session, but they were able to manage it. And what remains now is for the 36 State House of Assemblies to also concur with the amendments before it will get through. But one critical amendment that also has been, come to the fore is to preclude the president from ascending to a constitutional amendment before it becomes law. So we see how that plays out. But meanwhile, the Minister of National Budget and National Planning has indicated that by the first week of October, budget 2018 will be laid down at the National Assembly. And he has also given hints into what to expect in the budget. The budget scope is put to about 7.9 trillion, with a deficit of about 2.77 trillion built into it. inflation will be driven from the current 16% to about 12.42%, while the gross domestic product, the growth rate is put at 4.8%. Revenue target is for 5.16 trillion, and capital expenditure is expected to be about 2.4, which is 30% of the entire budget. So this is in consonance with the indication given by the acting president. You recall while he was signing the 2017 budget, and he said categorically that the government would try to return to January to December budget cycle.
All right, finally, let's take the Daily Trust. Shibajo orders service chiefs back to Maiduguri. We've discussed that. That's on page 4 of Daily Trust. And 59 directors await decision on 20 permanent secretary slots. And that's on page 4 of Daily Trust. Now, the main headline, we've had that in other papers. 45 killed, many missing in Boko Haram ambush on oil workers. Now, Bayo, just to round off, this segment of today's program, the order of service chiefs to return to Maiduguri.
Yes, that's the order of the commander-in-chief. Go back to the theater of war and make sure that the war is ended. We have heard that technically Boko Haram has been defeated, but if you go back just a couple of months, the incessant attacks within Maiduguri and outside Maiduguri is giving concern, and that's why the commander-in-chief has to put his feet down and say, go there and end this. But the other story I wanted to quickly draw attention to is Nigeria Custom has intercepted a bizarre consignment. It was imported from Cameroon, and guess what it was? It was containers. One was containing 140 species of snakes, 660 other animals, including millipedes, geckos, and frogs were imported.
For what reason?
They have been impounded at Calabar and handed over to the Nigerian quarantine section because
that's a story
importing live animals.
That's a story for another day. At this point, we'd like to thank you, Bayo Atoyebi, for your analysis this morning on headlines in our national dailies. Thank you for being part of the show as usual.
Thank
We're
you.
going to see you again on Monday.
Monday will be another day.
Now, this is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We shall get to the nitty-gritty of our conversation this morning, which, of course, is tackling, looking at the erosion menace in the country. We'll be back very shortly.
Baby, please now.
School days are not for marrying. Marrying on campus in a marriage that is not a marriage.
Is she married? Which marriage?
An ill-timed union that breeds domestic violence, use, distractions, and heartbreak.
And if she graduates and leaves me here, I will take another wife.
You're what my father would call a Rolling Stone shenanigans.
Do not shoulder responsibilities of married life before it is time. Professor John Bull, Episode 2, Season 4, Campus Marriage.
Waiting with this now, Now you me they choose up your destiny.
Oh yeah, bring two.
Which one?
That one like your Gake leg and that one like Udo's forehead.
Over and out. Brought to you by Glow.
The largest data network. Glow Unlimited.
Well, thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria for today, and our guests have just joined us. And first of all, I'd like to introduce Honorable Obinna Chidoka, a Chairman, House Committee on Environment.
Before we do that, there should be a background, okay? Before we take on our guest, I think
it's the background there. Okay, bless and do that.
All right, for decades, erosion has become a serious ecological problem in Nigeria with devastating consequences. Here's Timothy Yusuf with his background report as a prompt for our conversation.
Nigeria is among the countries in the world that are facing ecological challenges. The challenges differ from one geopolitical zone to the other. For instance, in the southeast, erosion is the major environmental problem facing the people, described by some experts as a silent killer. Statistics show that there are more than 2,500 gullies in the southeast of the country alone. World Bank study as far back as 1990 established that erosion is one of the three main environmental problems in Nigeria. A survey carried out by the Apex Financial Institution revealed that Nigeria loses 1 trillion naira to erosion-related crises. A recent report by the National Council on Environment indicates that over 10% of land area of Nigeria, representing 92,000 kilometers, is under severe erosion problems, classified as sheet, rill, gully, and coastal erosion. Experts lament that thousands of lives are lost every year to erosion, and inestimable values of properties of the citizenry are washed away by the seemingly intractable menace of erosion. As a way to address the menace of erosion in the country, the Federal Ministry of Environment, in conjunction with the World Bank and its partner agencies, designed the Nigerian Erosion and Watershed Management Project, NUMAP. The agency is to, among other objectives, tackle on a multi-dimensional scale the menace of gully erosion in the southeast, as well as land degradation in the north. The project NUMAP is in line with the growth and resilience goals of Nigeria's Vision 2020. The intervention programs, which commenced in 7 states, have been expanded to 19. They include Imo, Anambra, Abia, Cross River, Ebonyi, Edo, Enugu, Delta, and Gombe. Others are Kogi, Kano, Plateau, Oyo, Sokoto, Akwa Ibom, Borno, Katsina, Nasarawa, and Niger states. Worried by the devastating effects of erosion, the National Assembly is working on a bill to establish Erosion Control and Prevention Commission with a view to reverse the colossal damages caused by erosion-related challenges yearly. What are the causes of erosion in Nigeria? How much of damage has the menace caused the country? And what can be done to nip it in the bud? These are questions expected to be answered as Good Morning Nigeria today focuses erosion control.
All right, it's good you had that background report. And so joining us to discuss the issue for the day is Honorable Obinna Chidoka, Chairman, House Committee on Environment and Ecology. It's a pleasure to have you join us today on the program.
Thank you very much.
And also in the studio with us is Salisu Dahiru, is the Director and the National Coordinator, Nigeria Erosion and Watershed Management Project, NUMAP. You're also welcome, sir, to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
And also from our Benin studio, we are being joined by John Adisa, Project Coordinator, Edo State Nigeria Erosion and Watershed Management Project. Now, it's a pleasure to have you join us.
Okay, Kieran, I think that should be our Enugu studio. I think we'll get to go to Benin in a short while. We'd like to welcome in our Enugu studio Dr. Ifeanyi Chukwuma Ejikeme, who is the Honorable Commissioner for Environment, Beautification and Ecology, Anambra State. Mr. Ejikeme, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Good morning, all.
And seated beside him is Mr. Michael Evenso, is a project coordinator NUMAP in Anambra State. I would like to welcome Mr. Evenso to the program as well.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, we now go over to Jos to join us via Skype, Mr. Lazarus Mbaya, who is the head of department, Geography, Gombe State University. Mr. Mbaya, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Non-degradation.
All right, okay, Mr. Mbaya, thank you very much. Okay, Kirian?
All right. Gentlemen, let's start by asking this very simple but fundamental question. What are the immediate and remote causes of erosion? I'd like to start with Salisu Dahiru.
Thank you very much, Kerian. The issue of erosion has always been, the bane of our environmental situation in the country. And in very simple terms, there are various causes. However, how do people actually recognize what erosion is? The surface of the earth is made up of mainly land and soil, and due to the effects of either rain or air, the wind, you have situations where this top surface is removed, and starts from very simple washing away that we see either in the form of the dust particles which are originating from the topsoil, and gradually reaching a level where you see massive rain falling, and then in the course of trying to find its own level, carries the topsoil away. And depending upon the nature of the soil, this can be stable for some time, or it can reach an alarming stage whereby gullies are formed and ravines result as a result of these two actions.
All right, thank you very much, Sir Dahiru. Now, let's situate this even in greater, well, for those who say it's a theory, but I'm sure the head of Department of Geography will let us into what we're experiencing in the time being. Okay, while we wait to reconnect with him, let's have the Honorable in our midst. You actually took a look at some of the areas, especially Anambra, where you represent, and Southeast is said to be worst hit in terms of erosion. What exactly is the House pushing in this direction, and what have we moved for?
Thank you for that question. As we always will note, I think outside security, national security or international security, the environment is the next topical issue being discussed world over. And in Nigeria in particular, we found different environmental issues. So one of them being, of course, erosion or gully erosion. Up north, in most of the 11 states up north, you have desertification, and then you have other forms of environmental degradation, especially in the Niger Delta.
But from your findings, you moved around recently. So what are those things you found out? And what exactly, is it as serious as well? Making it seem, or how serious? Because we know there are reports here and there, but what are those findings from your
let me tell you how serious it is. If nothing is done in certain areas of Nigeria, especially erosion, most states, some states like Anambra, will be totally wiped off. That's how bad it is. There are over 900 impacted sites in Anambra, if not more. From Abia to Enugu to Ebonyi, nobody is spared. It's a very serious issue, and that is why I've gone to the floor of the House to consider a new bill, because I've looked at what the Ecological Funds Office is doing. They're doing okay, just like New Map is also doing, but it's not enough. So that's why I'm proposing that there should be a commission, an erosion prevention, control and prevention commission, that would be saddled with responsibility of only taking care of these issues of erosion. And what we'll do is to pull in all the funds. Because many people don't understand that in Nigeria today, the Ecological Funds Office, of course, get a direct charge from our consolidated revenue. And then states also get 0.72% of that money. No state governor have come to tell you how he spends that money. None. They don't give you account of how those monies are spent. Now, what we want to do is to take away that money from them and put it into a fund that will be properly managed by a commission whose responsibility is to take care of these erosion sites. Recently, you saw some of them that will, from the background information we've seen, you see what it is. Most of those sites you see are in Anambra alone. So while states like Lagos State is expanding towards the sea, claiming more lands back, Anambra is shrinking by the day. Abia is shrinking by the day. Enugu same. Imo same. Everywhere. So the issues are very as serious as it comes. If you go to some areas, there are no economic activities, there are no farming activities, there are no social activities. Erosion has taken deep, has dug deep into this environment. So a commission of that nature will be the most ideal thing for us to take away from some part of the function of ecological funds, take away some of the funds from the governors, pull them into one, and make sure that we get the work done.
All right, the valid point we've made here is the fact that you're going to take away the ecological fund from the states, because over the years, states had the privilege of having these funds, from international donor agencies, yet, nothing was done. Now, let's go down to Enugu and, of course, Anambra, where the erosion menace in this country was hit. And Dr. Ifeanyi Chukwuma Ejikeme, you are the Honorable Commissioner for Environment, Beautification and Ecology in Anambra State. And as Honorable pointed out here, Anambra is one of those states that was hit. Ekulobia, Nanka, Oku, and all other areas surrounding these communities are badly hit by erosion for over 10 or more years. Now, paint a picture of the current situation there. After you, we'd like Michael Evans also to speak on this, because both of you are in the areas that are so critical when it comes to gully erosion menace in the country. I'd like to start with Chukwuma Ejikeme.
Roman Ejikeme, actually. And I want to tell you, Anambra State is completely ravaged by erosion in Anambra State. I like what the Honorable Chidoka said. Anambra has over 1,000 erosion sites, active erosion sites. And today, as I'm talking to you, we are still discovering many. In my office yesterday, a widow ran to my office and was begging, crying that is out. Most of these pictures shown here is from Anambra State. Most of these pictures are from Anambra State. So Anambra State is worse hit. In fact, why, like the Honorable House of Rep said, Anambra State, why is we are the second in the landmass, and now we are being shrinked and compared to almost a state of emergency with erosion. And Lagos, that is supposed to be the last, is now, even by reclaiming of this Atlantic land from Atlantic Ocean, is increasing. Anambra State is actually the worst hit in this area. Some of these pictures are the pictures we sent to Abuja to showcase. These are the current one, very active erosion sites. So please, and just recently about 1.6 billion naira was released about 16 states. I don't know why Anambra State was not there. Honestly, it baffles me, because we are really moving out. His Excellency has been crying. He has visited Lagos and Abuja. Even the former SFG, we have submitted several pictures of this, and yet nothing happened. Please, we are begging, please, we are on knees on the ground, that Anambra State should be declared a horrible zone and an emergency zone in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
All right. Before we go to Jos, let's listen to Michael Evans. So, what's your take, Michael? You are the project coordinator of NEWAP in Anambra State. What's your take on all of this?
As the Honorable Commissioner has eloquently elaborated, the situation in Anambra is alarming, to say the least. The number of devastations we have seen in the last rainfall cycle is almost one where we need to be declared as a state of emergency. We have consistently tried to do some palliative work internally here with the funds from the states. Now, the assistance from NEWAP is bringing a lot of relief to what the state is trying to do. What we're trying to make very clear here is that the situation in the states is one of that we're in serious dire straits, and we need a lot of assistance from anywhere we can get all those.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Evans. So now we join our guests, join us via Skype. That's
in Jos.
In Jos, Dr. Mbaya, let's take a look at what the experience is like in the northern part, northeast, and some other parts in the north where you oversee. Join us via Skype. Dr. Mbaya?
disasters. Disasters ranging from desertification, erosion, flood. The Northeast is seriously facing with environmental problems. With reference to Gombe State in particular, and Gombe Town, gully erosion has been and all efforts to manage, to reduce the havoc of these hazards has not been successful. Partly because of inability to know and to understand the main reason behind these hazards or disasters. If you can go around Gombe, you find that a lot of houses are being collapsed, destroyed, or even lives are being lost as a result of erosion. When we talk of erosion, people think that it is only in the southeast that gully erosion is a serious problem. In the northeast, gully erosion is more serious than even the desertification. Therefore, there is a need for a holistic approach to this problem. The problem is with reference to land use changes, modernization, development processes, coupled with hydrological, soil, topographical, and other factors have contributed to these manners. Therefore, if we are to approach this problem, we have to approach it holistically. We cannot able to take up part and try to solve it while we could not able to understand the other parts. Over the years, Gombe have witnessed increase in migration. People have influx into the area more than 10 years back. Why? Because of relatively peace that is being witnessed in Gombe. Hence, with the insurgency problem in the northeast, most people flee the area to come and settle in Gombe, thereby affecting the land use, increasing the runoff, and the runoff as a result of heavy, small amount of rain will generate erosion. People have occupied flood area. People have occupied fragile or marginal land that would have not been so. And because of unplanned urban or inadequate facility to cater for the amount of water that is being generated, then you find that everywhere in Gombe is erosion, gully erosion. It has developed into a havoc. Many people, many houses are being collapsed or affected directly by gully erosion. Therefore, we need a whole urban plan.
Yeah. Dr. Mbaya, thank you very much. Even despite the glitches from the connection this morning, we're able to put some of the points across. And the fact remains that land is being depleted in the different areas in the north, as explained by him. Okay, what other remediation moves are you seeing being taken either at the state level or even from the federal government intervention? What else would you like to see as part of your concerns?
Intervention is there. People feel federal government intervention maybe through the ecological fund, but the federal intervention cannot be matched with the havoc being experienced currently. You find that the drainage being constructed by federal ecological or federal government is just not up to 2 kilometers. And the length, the major length of gully erosion in Gombe is over 10 kilometers. So you need, if you are constructing a drainage, you must construct it from the beginning to the end of these streams or gullies. But when you stop halfway, you have not solved the problem, because the amount of water that will come into the drainage will later on break the drainage, since you have not completed it to the end. Therefore, half drainage or strategy adopted by federal government is not in pace with the effect or the hazard being generated by gully erosion in the northeast. So therefore, we need more.
All right.
Yes, sure. I said something about the connection just now. Well, we'd like to thank Dr. Lazarus Mbaya, Head of Department, Geography, Gombe State University, joined us via Skype. But if we can get back to you, fine. But if not, we'd just like to appreciate your contribution so far. We were trying to introduce earlier from our Benin studio.
So, yes, we have just been joined from our Benin Network Center, of course, by John Adisa, Project Coordinator, Edo State, Nigeria Erosion and Watershed Management Project. John Adisa, it's a pleasure to have you join us today on Good Morning Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Okay, I hope you've listened to other guests on this program making their own contributions. And that being the case, we would like you to also share your views with us with respect to the devastating effect of erosion across the nation.
Good morning, Nigeria. I can only speak on in respect of gully erosion, flood and gully erosion in Edo State. And one thing I want to actually emphasize here, that major gully erosion sites we have in Edo State were occasioned by poor construction activities. For example, the Queen Ede gully erosion site that took the whole of secondary school, almost took a church, and a lot of houses and people who died, was occasioned by poor termination of the drainage channel that was constructed when the federal government awarded the contract for the construction of Benin-Asaba Road. And that is one of the major causes of gully erosion in Edo State. When you construct a drainage channel, you must make sure that you take it to an appropriate discharge point. And in most cases, the most appropriate discharge point is usually a river. If you look at what is happening in Edo State, most of the gully erosion sites, active gully erosion sites, over 30, they are all sloping towards one river or the other. Now, in Auchi, we had a similar problem. The federal government awarded a contract for the drainage so many, over 20-something years ago. And actually, these drainage systems were supposed to be terminated in Ole River, but they were not. They were poorly terminated. They were not taken to the over 3 kilometers to where it was supposed to terminate. And this caused a lot of devastation. Over 150 houses were lost in Auchi. And because of the formation, the soil formation in Auchi, which is gravelly in nature, the gully started just by one. And in a space of 15 years, the gullies increased to 8 in number. Now the Edo State government, in collaboration with the World Bank and the Nigeria Erosion and Watershed Management Project, we're glad to say, has been able to solve the gully erosion problem in Auchi, Kwinede, and Ekewa. But now I want to draw the attention of the federal government to a series of gullies that are developing between Benin, Auchi, Okene Road. There are so many. You go to Auchi to Agenebode Road, which is also a federal road. There are over 6 gully erosion sites that are developing. And if they are not tackled, they are going to cut this road into 2 in no distant time. Thank you for now.
All right, Adisa, it's really a Herculean task to tackle the level of menace erosion has caused in different parts of the country. But now let's return to our Abuja studio, and we would like to go to Salisu Dahiru. We want to ask this question, as the coordinator of NEWAP, do you really have a comprehensive information on erosion sites across the country? Because if you do not determine, the level or the number of erosion sites we have, then it will be extremely difficult, for you to provide any solution. So do you have such information?
Kerian, actually, you see, the way and manner in which the Nigeria Erosion and Watershed Management Project was designed is such that a lot of the issues that have been raised, starting from even the studies that Dr. Lazarus mentioned, are well embedded as the preparatory work. Soil studies, hydrological, as well as topographical studies are conducted for each of these sites. In terms of data, we have gone digital, as even the TV system in Nigeria is done. Beginning with the new map, we, in each of the 7 states that have given us data now, we've conducted aerial photography and took digital remote sensed data on each of these sites. Now the architecture of new map is such that most of the information comes from the state, because the program is state-led, state-implemented. So, for instance, Anambra State, with all due respect to Honorable Chidoka, is being termed the capital of gully erosion in Nigeria because of the number. Now, these information is being gathered through the state and the local government and built into a GIS system that is portaled in the state and then aggregated at the national level. And the selection process for new map so far is that it looks at the site that is most active, most threatening, and most severe. For instance, if you take Cross River, even though we are not talking about Cross River today, there's a site that is known as Ikotinkebre that started just like this poorly terminated drain. And within 3 years, this site has gone beyond 1 kilometer. The nature of the soil is such that with just one rainy season, believe me, an active gully in the southeast can advance to more than 100 meters in just 1 year. So, sincerely speaking, we've done this aggregation in terms of the studies, and our approach has always been what even the doctor from Jos is saying, looking at a holistic approach. We take everything that is directly and indirectly implicated in the beginning, causing the gully, and then also looking at factors that are responsible for increasing its severity. So our intervention, yes, there are 900, 1,000, 30, 100 in different states. And we do not expect new map as a project that has a limited period and a limited amount of money to be able to address all this. However, the value addition is the fact that it is going to help us do learn the how to do and mainstream this within the civil service of each of the states and the federal, such that when the World Bank that is financing this project withdraws, we should be able to look for ideal sources of funding as being rightly, canvassed for by Honorable Chidoka in order to sustain the work that NewMap is doing, because we do not expect NewMap to be there in perpetuity.
All right, Mr. Dairu, how recent were this data collected that you're trying to bring up? That's okay, you have done this information survey over time. How recent were they, or how far back were they done?
At the beginning of the project.
When was this?
Yeah, 2012, 2013. We did this work with NASDA. As I am talking to you at the moment, the exercise was also being, because when you fly and get this data at the beginning, after intervention, you need to go there to also see the extent of the work that you have done, how much you've been able to contain the sites. And the last exercise for the aerial photography is ongoing at the moment. In fact, the report is being expected within this period. So it is as recent as you can think of. And the actual flying started from last year, 2015.
I asked that question against the background that issue of erosion menace is not just something that started even in same 2012, as far back as 15, 20, even in the 40s. I guess in Benin, Satisa said, some of those ones are even, the ones that you have identified as critical, there are even more, some other active ones that are non-critical, but very active now, moving in their numbers. And if this has been the situation across the states, across the nation, why have successive governments actually refused to take on this challenge as a matter of urgency? Honorable Chidoka, you might want to go, what at least part of your findings will have been, what exactly has been done in some states and not.
Okay, thank you for that question. And I will go back to my earlier position to say that we have looked at the enormity of the issues of the erosion, gully erosion issues in Nigeria, and found out that Nigeria, it just is a slap in the wrist. We're not taking a holistic view or holistic approach in making sure that we address these issues. And that's why I think that maybe in nomenclature or in the naming, we'll call it Ecological Funds Office. And I think that the intent of it is to put funds aside and be able to look at these issues holistically. Have we succeeded in doing that? No. And I think that's why I'm saying, let's look at it holistically and say, okay, we'll have this bill, this commission that will sit down. The job they will do is essentially to manage gully erosions all over Nigeria. The prof from Gombe, just to let you know that as House Committee Chairman on Environment and Habitat, I've been to Nafada in Gombe. With Dairu here, we've been to Borno as well, went all the way to Bama. I've been to some parts of the north to look at these issues, not only of gully erosion, desertification, and that is what we do. The background information you see and the videos you see were some of the tours we went with, personally, with NTA to look at those areas. Once we're able to look at this commission, saddled with this responsibility, we'll pull out all the states that have serious gully erosion issues and put them together. Now, also we talked about the 1.6 billion that was released by the federal government for flood areas. Flooding sometimes comes with a lot of, gully erosion issues. And as a rep of Anambra State, I realized that Anambra was not part of it, and I said, which other state could benefit from that money if not for Anambra? And I had to move that motion on the floor of the House to include Anambra State in the releases of 1.6 billion naira for these flood-prone areas. Also, leading the committee all the way to Duku and to Nafada, and we're coming back to Duku again I'm sure that program is sometime this week to look at the tree planting and look at other areas to stem the growth of this gully erosion. But you find out that in the southeast, due to the way the soil, the composition of the soil is the worst hit. And within the southeast, Anambra is bad. Imo is bad. Ebonyi, most of these areas are quite bad. And what we're saying is that we need to have a good issues to it. Now, Chief Alex Ekweme, personally, at his age, took us to a site in Nanka. When you get to that site, you will not believe you're in Nigeria. You would think you're at a site from a sci-fi movie. You would think actually somebody dropped a bomb in there. And his ancestral home is being threatened. And I know that that site was being done by Ecological Funds Office. Now, don't get me wrong. Has Ecological Funds been doing their job? Yes, they have, but it's not enough. That's what we're trying to say. Now they've done that. There is auditorium and lab in Federal Polytechnic Oko. They spent over 8 billion. That project is going to go down if nothing is done shortly. And then I must commend also Governor Fashola, the minister, because there was a recent visit I did in a place called Odume in Obosi in Anambra. And once he came out, already 3 buildings have gone into that site. In fact, we were driving on that road 2-3 months ago. If you see that site today, you will never believe it. You'll be wondering what they call a sinkhole. And immediately it came out, the minister sent me a text, sent to the director and said, go look at that area. If there's a bridge, let's reconstruct it. And I sent him back and said, thank you for the proactive action. This is what we need. But I know that he doesn't have the wherewithal in terms of funding to take care of every other issue. So from Gombe to Bauchi, to all the states in the southeast, to Kogi, to all these areas, to Edo and all that, we'll bring them together in this commission, take it together, and we'll look at it. So there's so many other issues we're going to look at. And then we want a situation where even if you go to a place like Obaro, theirs is a bit different. So there is a shoreline community where one of our senators, to me, founded a word called sandification. I don't know where she got that word from. Where, of course, after the flooding moves away, then you find the sand. The sand comes in. And then you're wondering, no farming activity, no fishing activity, nothing can take place there. So it's a very serious issue that Nigeria shouldn't toy with. Just the same way we shouldn't toy with security issues. Environment is worse off.
Yes, maybe just to still latch into where the Honorable stopped, back to Enugu studio. There's a means of livelihood for families. Families are being torn apart because they have to move from their, perhaps, like you said, ancestral homes and some other means of occupation in those areas. And earlier, Mr. Dairuye said there's something about state-led projects with New Map. Can we find out what the states, before we start getting to what the ecological funds will be supporting, and even the bill that you're pushing to actually, we'll find out what state the bill is now to actually know. In Enugu, yes, let's talk to the Honorable Commissioner, Dr. Romance Ejikeme. Now, what has the state been able to do to actually show concern to the people affected, most of the areas affected in terms of support and relocating them if need be, before we get to other areas of grants that you're expecting from the federal government and perhaps other bodies?
Thank you very much. As I'm speaking to you now, His Excellency has approved about 14 sites, which he does with the mega fund we have. We know what we have now, and Anambra State is watch hit, and with this, so many areas are being attended to, and it is in just 2 sections. The new mark is handling, the one is handling about 15 sites now in Anambra State, and the state is also handling about 14 sites. This area, these sites are the worst hit areas that people cannot even live there again. So people are being relocated. And His Excellency Dr. Willie Madabra Tugobiano is not resting on his arms. He's really working very hard to do what is possible for him with the mega finance resources he has. And he has also paid about 500 million counterpart fund for New Map. And he has even approved another 500 to be paid. But actually, I have to tell you that the action of new map in Anambra State is not something commendable, I must confess. It's only about 4 sites have been completed. The one I came into environment about last year, about 1 year ago. We have open bid about 8 sites actually, and none have been awarded. So we are really worried because these things are something to do with human being, human life and property. Our ancestral village, like my honorable said, are being affected. If you see this thing, honestly, this thing is causing me a lot of high blood pressure, honestly. Because of it, I don't move anywhere in Anambra. Every now and then, I have a phone call, this is happening there, and these are very fresh erosion sites. Very fresh, not the one that are healing. When we speak, some of big chicken house were sent, and they're very new. So the problem is that with the little lean resource, His Excellency Dr. William Abrachukwu Global, he's really trying. Honestly, he has approved almost about 14 erosion sites recently to be constructed. These areas are so devastating, and there is nothing he can do without giving that urgent and required intervention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner for Environment, Anambra State. Well, we have to agree that it's crystal clear that erosion menace, as Blessing pointed out earlier on, has lasted for over 30 years. And we're talking about management now. Because when these erosion sites are allowed to get to a level where it becomes so difficult to handle, then you will be speaking the way you are speaking this morning. I know you've had previous administrations in Anambra State and elsewhere that never paid attention to these gully erosions, even with the ecological fund. Because if they were properly managed in the past, by now we'll have little or not really much to take care of. Now, what are the remediative measures, being taken at the moment in Anambra State, by Anambra State government to tackle this matter? Because none of these sites have been completed, none. All are still, either you are having new ones and the old ones are expanding and what have you. Villages are being washed away. What are the immediate remedial actions being taken presently in Anambra State?
Thank you, Kyria. Like I told you, I said His Excellency, in his goodwill and the concern to the masses of Anambra State, to the populace of Anambra State, has awarded about 14 erosion sites in Anambra State. The one we can handle. These are not small jobs. You understand me? What I'm trying to say is the ones that are really for the new map should be also, attended to. His Excellency is trying the much he can. Like I told you, at every now and then we have phone calls, we have visits. This Oduma he's talking, and I'm telling you, Obina, when you get to that Oduma now, you won't know it again because the road is cut off completely. The road is cut off completely, and about how many buildings sank into the pit. So it's alarming. His Excellency is trying, like I told you, he has awarded people idea. Even though we have not even completed the contractual agreement and the documentation, he has asked them to move to the site and see that these things are remedied and the life are saved. I'm not a man.
Thank you indeed, Honorable Commissioner. Now, Michael Evans, so you are the project coordinator of NewMap. Can you corroborate some of the points made by Honorable Commissioner, or rather, if NewMap has any roadmap, towards fighting erosion menace in Anambra State, what has been done?
Yeah, like the Honorable Commissioner has said, NewMap has a very well spelled out institutional arrangement that allows it to bring in other players from the MDAs to collaborate with us in ensuring that we have a holistic approach to erosion control. Because the nature of erosion and how it works and how it manifests requires the action of not just the people in the environment, but everybody concerned. Like Mr. Desai has said, improper termination of drainages arising from road construction is one of the primary causes of erosion in the southeast area. And that means we are having a lot of conversations with our colleagues in the Ministry of Works, in the Ministry of Lands, and the Public Safety Department in ensuring that we're doing appropriate studies as well as due diligence in ensuring that we're taking measures to make sure that road construction follows a very definite protocol that allows it to terminate appropriately and not right in the midriff, so that the erosion that will be caused by that activity will be minimized. We are also expanding our intervention in the areas of revegetation. His Excellency just recently launched the 1 million tree planting, because the removal of surface cover, which the trees and the grasses provide, also helps to enhance gully formation. On the part of NewMap, one of the things we do to help alleviate the scourge of erosion is providing assistance to the communities where we work as part of our humanitarian rehabilitation. That also helps us to make sure that we're providing them source of livelihood that removes the current practice of cutting down trees to make fuel for cooking or for whatever reason. So that holistic approach helps for the sustainability of the erosion control and other ecological problems in the country. So the approach is one where we are collaborating with other MDAs. We are providing sustainability for the local affected population, as well as doing a lot of revegetation to ensure that we are replenishing the lost vegetation due to encroachments and deforestation. These are all the things that help exacerbate erosion in Anambra State. So these are some of the things we do in NewMap to help augment the action of the state government through the Ministry of Environment.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Venso. Since erosion, it's a growing problem in the country, not just Anambra. We would like to appreciate what everyone is doing, but let's find out from Dr. Mbaya, who is still joining us via Skype, some of those areas of intervention, the other concerns. Let's compare notes. Really, what other area in terms of local capacity can be applied while we wait for the grants? Like I said, the grant from Ecological Office, the Commission's bill being looked into. Let's compare notes and see what other areas some of this collaboration could actually work in terms of contribution to the different kind of erosion affecting the different parts of the country. No doubt, they are peculiar to such areas. What other areas of concerns are you looking at, and what can be done to actually have a synergy of all this intervention? I'm sorry, Dr. Mbaya, there seems to be a challenge on the audio getting to us here on the program. Okay, let's return to our Benin studio, where we still have Adisa joining us. Now, what kind of intervention as the Edo State government, alongside other supports that your body have been getting, what's peculiar intervention is NewMap having in that area, and what other kind of intervention have you received so far, especially in the local capacity to addressing this challenge?
Yes, thank you very much. Edo State government has been very, very, very supportive in trying to address this challenge of both flood and gully erosion. The government of Edo State has come out with a comprehensive storm water master plan. And by the Edo State government, a contract has been awarded to take 1/3, especially Benin City, of the flood erosion control from what we call the West Moat catchment. Now, the intervention that has happened in Edo State actually has taken place in 3 sites where the projects are about 95% completed. Right now, we have 11 additional sites, and we have an international consulting firm, design and supervision consulting firm, that we are working in collaboration with. And the good thing I would recommend to other states of the Federation that are not involved in new map is that before now, solutions to gully erosion in the country was just one-sided, rigid structures. Drain, 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 drain. Now, the new map has an integrated approach. That is, first, you have to come with a comprehensive data. Watershed approach. What is a watershed? A watershed is an area that contributes flood and runoff water to a particular area, causing a problem. For example, causing a gully, causing a degradation. So NewMap came out with an idea that for us to have a holistic approach, an integrated approach, and to solve this gully erosion permanently, they came in with 2 additional components: rigid structure, flexible structure, and bioremediation. What do I mean? Rigid structure, yes, concrete channels. Flexible structures are structures that are made that can be moved. What I mean, flexible, like what we call gabions are check dams. These are structures that over the years can assist the gully to regenerate itself. The bioremediation aspect is planting of
All right. Well, we are to there, getting Adisa, through to Abuja. But right now, let's return to Jos, where Dr. Mbaya is staying. Dr. Mbaya, Blessing earlier asked you a question based on remediation. What are the plans coming from different aspects of intervention mechanism? What is your expert advice on how this issue can be tackled nationwide?
As I said earlier, remediation can be in different perspectives. In reference to Gombe, I can see a signboard, roadmap, Gombe roadmap, watershed management. This is a good initiative. I don't know whether or federal government or national organization. This project, if implemented,
we are still experiencing difficulty along the line of our communication network. But before we continue this conversation, let's look at what Nigerians are beginning to say about this conversation. Blessing?
Yes, some viewers have actually joined us by way of tweeting at us, and you can actually contribute in that direction as well as you join us with our Twitter handle at NTAGMN, right there displayed on your screen. From Ibrahim Tudu is this tweet: ecological problems are as a result of long years of neglect of erosion and environmental issues. Erosion is a disaster waiting to happen.
I think many Nigerians will believe him when he says long years of neglect. Now, from Dennis Philip, erosion is a natural disaster that cannot be prevented, but the affected area should be compensated by the federal government.
Montasir Dauda has this tweet: when this commission comes up, it should undertake an area mapping of all erosion sites in Nigeria.
Ibrahim Tudu once again says, in the north, it is a combination of desertification and erosion. So serious measures must be instituted to save the environment.
From Dele Jack Solomon, my moderator's impact of erosions include loss of human and animal lives, loss of properties and land resources, leading to communal land conflicts.
Now, Mike Ayako says, it is very unfortunate that we talk about erosion every year. How did huge sums given to various governments to control erosion previously? Where are the funds, he asks.
Dele continues, my moderators, we implore the southeastern states governors to use part of their share of Paris Club bailout funds to fight erosion menace.
Then Sani Michael Mokaji, aside human factor that often fuel this menace, most state governments divert ecological funds for their personal use.
And he continues, if only government can be proactive and prompt to national issues like the way NTA does follow up, Nigeria should appreciate greatly by now. Thank you very much, Sani.
Gentlemen, follow up. Gentlemen, follow up. Long years of neglect as raised by some of Nigerians. I'd like you to react, Salisu.
Sincerely, this is a very apt assessment of the situation, and not just for gullies, but for the entire environment. I think what we failed to do is to recognize the direct linkage between a healthy environment and our own existence. And a lot of the factors now responsible for gully formation and gully aggravation are man-made. You could see poorly terminated drains, you could see the dumping of refuse into urban natural drainage channels, you could see conversion of floodplains into residential areas, and also not respecting the environment when it comes to urban planning. And now, for instance, Agulunanka that we are talking about, there is information about Agulunanka dating back to 1840, when the colonial masters were around and even tried to do...
When they were asked to relocate.
To relocate. And they did some planting with bamboo and a host of other attempts to ameliorate that. But that has not... we've not matched with the necessary attention, funding, and follow-up. So, for us, I think a concerted effort by all agencies and entities, including communities, in looking at helping to restore the environment in order to safeguard our own existence will be a sure way of doing this. And I think, to a large extent, this mainstreaming or institutionalization can be achieved through the formation of this agency or commission that the National Assembly been anchored by the Honorable Chidoka doing, and it will really help to ensure that the right thing is done in terms of identifying sources of funding that will ensure that whatever lessons and experiences we've learned through NewMap can also be sustained and help to expand into the entire country. And looking at the nature of gullies, even local governments can play some leading roles by dealing with the smaller gullies that have just begun.
Exactly, because it develops from there. It starts from small to big.
In fact, for the first time, I think, some of us must have observed in Abuja, recently in the last couple of weeks, the concerted effort being done to reopen most of the open drains. You know, all the debris that have been inside and the sand that has collected in them are being removed in anticipation of what has happened in Suleja, Lagos, and some other parts of the country in terms of flooding. And these are things that local governments should be doing on a regular basis, and it will help to provide job opportunities to also improve the local economy, because we are already generating some activity.
Let's hope those that have been removed and left on the road will not be left there to be washed away by the flood again, by going back into the same drains.
They have been packed. You see tippers all over the place, picking them, I think, in different parts of Abuja recently.
Okay, Honorable, let's get this. Part of the tweets we read out were issues of monitoring. Some of these funds actually come either from ecological funds and some other means that the support has been coming to the state. How much of oversight has been done in some of these areas to actually help channel this energy that we're now expending in talking about erosion, if they have been done in the past or perhaps presently? Because should this bill scale through, will it go the same way that those ones have been in the past?
Okay, let me take it this way. I think every Nigerian should take their time and see a movie that was a documentary that was put together by the Yaradua Foundation called Nowhere to Run. In Nigeria today, there's really nowhere to run. So when you go from the northeast, you have issues of desertification, and now, of course, the Boko Haram insurgency. If you come to the southeast, you have gully erosion. If you go to the south-south, you have the oil degradation, land degradation. Sure. If you go to the shorelines, you're going to have, of course, the overflowing of the ocean. And you find that there's really nowhere to run. It's a very interesting one we should look at. Secondly, you've brought up a very good issue. Why you talk about oversight is that some of these are state matters, but we need to bring it to the fore. 0.72% of the ecological funds money goes to the state governors. What have they done with it? 0.62% of these same funds taken away direct to the local government. So when you put it together, a state governor gets about 1.32% of ecological funds. How many of them have accounted to us Nigerians what they've done with it? But meanwhile, we saw recently where governors wanted to hijack or take over the ecological funds office because they saw some billions in it and determined that they should share the money amongst themselves. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think that these are the areas we need to monitor. They need to tell us. Also, I think that we must have smart ways of tackling these issues. We talk about urban development planning. What about the rural development planning? In one of the sites we went to, incidentally to happen to be my hometown in Obosi, in that area, some of them have decided that even they don't mind if their ancestral homes will give way for us to have the water channels and the right of way to go through. And I think these are some of the issues we're having. Also coming to this other issue, this bill has gone to second reading, and we expect it to go to public hearing where we can annex or x-ray all the issues for us to bring it. Once it becomes a commission, it means that from the national level, we're going to have direct oversight on how every penny is spent. There must be smart ways to deal with this. We're all educated, we've all traveled. Recently, I was at the World Expo exhibition in New Orleans, and we met companies who have dealt with erosion control and all that. And I must thank Dairu and Newma for the work they're doing. What they should know, like the commissioner has said, is that it's a World Bank funded project. The World Bank will not allow one kobo to get missing. And that is why their procurement processes take some time, because everything must be accounted for. And when the project is done, it's done properly. And this is the approach the governors and we, all of us, should adapt.
Honorable,
yes.
Sorry for cutting short. You mentioned two critical issues here. Yes. One is how previous administrations, especially at the state level, handled ecological funds, which of course we all know have been huge funds for that matter from international donors. They did nothing with it. Now you are pursuing a bill which, if it scales through, perhaps members of the National Assembly, just like they are doing presently in the case of budgeting, could say, fine, I'm representing a place, where there is gully erosion. We should be able to, have its own, project, erosion project. My fear and the fear of many Nigerians is that when this bill scales through and some members may begin to ask for them to have a share of it, to personally take care of such projects in their areas. So how will you allay the fears of Nigerians that this will not happen? Because one, the state governments could not adequately account for ecological funds given to them in the past. How are we sure that this time around that your members will not also come in to say, yes, it's time for us to now be part of this erosion menace?
Thank you, Karen, for that question. I think because some of the governed, us as the people, we don't ask questions. We don't demand the law from those that govern us, from the National Assembly to your state governors. And I think sometimes you direct all the issues to National Assembly. Meanwhile, the state governors are also there. When it's a commission, we have huge oversight over it. There are states that have been mapped out. After all, new map today was in 7 states, now they're in 19 states. We know the states where the gully erosion is heavily domiciled in. Just the way we have a project called the Great Green Wall that handles only desertification issues in 11 states in the north and is well funded. What we're trying to say is this. Nobody is going to dip his hands in a commission and say, oh, give us the money and all that. We're going to adopt international best practices like you have with the World Bank and New Map, where before one kobo is suspended, of course, the issues have to be looked at so that we can solve one erosion site after another. One other issue we have is that, of course, by the time they do remedial work on one site, it's not properly done, then it comes back bigger than it was. Now, from our own side, we're planning a National Legislative Summit on Environment for Law and Policy, which is where I want every Nigerian to take cognizance of. We're going to sit down and discuss issues that affect the Nigerian environment as a whole. This is a very serious issue that Nigerians shouldn't joke with. And Nigerians think that there's issues of Boko Haram. They haven't seen anything because from the southeast, people are going to be relocating. And then people from the northeast are going to be running away, of course. There are IDP camps all over. Already there are IDP camps in the east, occasioned by erosion and flooding. So we're going to have nowhere really to run. By the time we come to the center, there'll be nothing left. It's a very serious issue, and Nigerians shouldn't joke with this. We're also proposing, and likewise, some of these funds were mismanaged. Please, the law courts, the law enforcement agencies, people should go to jail for it. But Nigerians should begin to demand 0.72%, 0.2% going to one state. How much is that fund? And I'm going to make those figures available, and our state governors must tell us what they've done with that money.
Okay, anyway, where we'll have you at the center or wherever the assemblies are, that is maybe state assemblies or national assemblies, to have effective representation for these people. Because for one who is already challenged in the area of relocation, maybe due to being sacked by erosion or some other means, where would they have the voice to come and be crying anyway, except some other persons actually stand up for them? Now, Nigerians are said to resort to refuse dumping along erosion sites, and some also actually scoop sand for some other kind of mining activities. So many activities are actually challenging to the environment and land in general. Now, Mr. John Adisa, of course, we'll like to have you comment on this and other activities that members or residents in Benin or around Edo State generally are actually doing that is not making this challenge to go away quickly. Let's address that as a way of your final comments. What else, what kind of activities are still being done to actually give this challenge a stronger head to stay?
No, number one, one thing that I believe has been contributing to massive flooding in Edo State is this issue of people paving their entire compound with either concrete pavement and sometimes interlocking tiles. And even some go to the extent of putting, cellophane under their interlocking tiles just to prevent grasses from growing from under. I think this should be discouraged. There should be massive sensitization. That if you build a house, yes, it's your house, but try as much as possible to know that you have neighbors. And whatever activities you do, affect the environment. For example, if you pave the entire of your compound, then water will start flowing from your gate into the road. Therefore, my suggestion is that at least if you want to do pavement, maybe for car park and everything, just 30%. of your land should be paved, and the rest should be, bioremediated. Should plant horticulture, plant grasses, plant flowers. Number two, in Benin City, for example, it is it is so annoying that when it is raining in some areas, in many areas, people come in with loads of refuse, loads and loads of waste, dumping the waste to allow the water to take away the waste. And where these waste find themselves into drainages, they find themselves into gullies, creating enormous problems. So we need a comprehensive waste management policy for every urban area, especially the urban areas in Nigeria, and also need massive sensitization. We should also encourage planting of trees, bioremediation, so that the issue of soil erosion, land degradation, sustainable land management can be addressed. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much indeed from our Benin Network Center, John Adisa, Project Coordinator, Edo State Erosion and Watershed Management Project. Thank you for being part of our program this morning. All right, now let's return to Jos, where Dr. Mbaya has been reaching us through Skype. Dr. Mbaya, your final contribution for this morning. Briefly. Well. We have finally lost contact with Dr. Mbaya there via Skype. And now, time to go to Enugu. Well, we'd like to also thank him very, very much for the efforts he made to reach us. He left Gombe last night to get to Jos this morning to be able to, reach us on this program. So it's been great. Your contribution and your efforts, we appreciate that indeed. And now to Enugu. Where the Commissioner of Anambra State Commissioner of Environment is staying with Ivenso also there. Gentlemen, let's have your final contribution this morning. Let's see how we round off this conversation from that end. I want to start with Ivenso.
Yes, Anambra State we have known to be a very prone erosion area, and His Excellency, like I told you, have been trying his best. Even the Honorable also saying, to the best of my knowledge, there's no fund yet came to Anambra State, to the best of my knowledge, and I'm sure His Excellency Dr. Willie Madabrochugobialo is paying also for the past regimes, backlog of contracts, actually. About 10 of them. He has been able to, he offset those things, and he also initiated his own new, about 14 of them. These things are not easy, really, with the bigger resources he has within his disposal. So my plan, my appeal to people, especially those dumping refuse in the drainage, it is a very bad sign in respect of environment. And anyone who dumps that, of course, there should be a legislation on that. And I'm also calling on the legislators to legislate laws, to make laws guiding all these things. And then another thing is enforcement. Once it is enforced, people do anything they like on the environment, and it's not good.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ejikeme, Honorable Commissioner for Environment, Beautification and Ecology, Anambra State, and Michael Ivenso, Project Coordinator of NewMap, Anambra State. Thank you both for joining us this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
Okay, quick. Now, we have reactions already too, but we must ask this question before we run through the tweets. Recently, there have been the floods, both here in neighboring Niger State, Suleja, as well as other parts of the country, Lagos especially. Now, this issue of flood, what other measures should we begin to look into it are being taken to actually in going forward? Because these are some of the areas that erosion too have been caused. Yeah,
you see the main factor that is being implicated in the recent floods is the issue of climate change, which has disrupted the rainfall pattern, coupled with our own habit. You've had the issue of blockage of these drainages and how we've obliterated the natural flowing system of each of these places. So now, ideally, periodically, every year we are supposed to embark on massive sensitization, which is the key thing at the beginning of the rainy season, so that everybody checks his surroundings to see whether he has left, things for the flood to come and either deal with, or things that will cause this flood.
So what proactive measures should be taken in this instance now?
Well, to have a sustained system is to do what we have integrated into NUMAP, revisiting each of the urban cities and updating their stormwater master plan. For Aba, which is the worst hit, I think, in Nigeria, NUMAP has already awarded the contract for Aba stormwater master plan, which is going to deal with it, and we are replicating it in almost all the states.
Well, at this point, we'd like to thank you, Salisu Dahiru. You've been contributed immensely on this discussion this morning. Thanks once again for being part of this program.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
And also the Honorable Obinna Chidoka, Chairman House Committee on Environment and Ecology and Habitat. Yes, thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll take a break, and when we return, we'll be concluding today's edition of the program.
Can I see your particulars, sir?
Officer, my particulars no dey here.
In that case, you'll have to come.
Officer, which levels? Where I for find you something make you take arrange your weekend.
What? Offense number 1, driving without particulars. Offense number 2, trying to bribe an officer of the law.
I won't harass Nigerians or take bribe. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and
Now let's join our sport desk to find out happenings within the sporting sector.